I don't have any advice for you today. I wanted to talk about you and me and what our relationship is and who I am to you and, that kind of stuff. So, as always, we're going to start with a quote and we'll end with a poem that I write just for you. So, this quote is from the very famous Lady Gaga, and she says, "I don't think I could think of a single thing that's more isolating than being famous." Little bunny. A quote about fame. Well, today is a little bit about fame, and I have a story time to go along with it. So, in my non-Lindy life, I am involved in some capacity in the performing arts. And I was asked to perform at a fundraiser. And it sounded fun, so I said yes. And I didn't really know anything about it. So I just showed up. And while I was backstage after we did a little bit of rehearsal, I was having dinner. I was sitting by my lonesome at a table. So if you were ever self-conscious about eating alone, well, guess what? We match. And this guy who was one of the fellow performers who I hadn't met before comes and sits down with me at the table. He's sitting across from me. And so we just get to talking. And it was a really wonderful conversation. We had a lot of warmth between the two of us. He was very charismatic, and I was my charming self back. And this sounds like a erotic story brewing, but no, this podcast is not erotic. We were just having great conversation, and we were being very genuine with each other, and even some vulnerable kind of conversation, the type of conversation that really goes hand in hand with people that are great in the performing arts. So we're having our conversation, and some more people join us, the more the merrier. And this charismatic stage partner of mine, I guess you could say, is going around and he's learning everyone's names and he's talking about them. He's showing a genuine interest in the other person. And I was very impressed by the way that he was talking with strangers. And I was learning actually a lot from just watching him operate. He had this incredible warmth and this incredible charisma. And at one point when he was talking to one of the young women who wasn't one of the performers, but she was working the event, at some point she blurts out, "I'm such a huge fan, by the way." So keep in mind, at the time, I knew nothing about this fundraiser. I didn't know how legit it was, how much money was involved, this or that. But in that moment, I had the realization that, oh, hang on, this man who joined me at this dinner table is a full-on celebrity. And I've always prided myself on not being intimidated by fame, but I did feel the difference between the second half of that conversation and the first. The conversation where I knew he was famous and the conversation when I didn't. After I learned that he was famous, and by the way, I'm not particularly famous in my non-Lindy life, the conversation was stilted and felt a little bit cold to me. I felt like I was constantly trying to maybe entertain him or justify me taking up his precious dinner time. If he has a limited amount of attention to give, well, who am I to be the person who takes up his attention? Aren't there other people that he should be talking to? And dinner ended, and we saw each other again on stage, and he turned out to be leading the thing. Actually, he was the host of sorts. And I couldn't help but feel like something sad had happened. Not a real kind of sadness, but just a mini little unfortunate moment where a difference in status between two people causes a relationship to be lost. It happened actually twice at this fundraiser. The second time was backstage after dinner when I was mingling with the other performers who I assumed were much less famous than our friend at dinner. And one of them I had wonderful banter with. This was one of the female performers, and it wasn't flirty necessarily, but I could tell that we would get along really well at a party kind of thing. And so we had to go on stage and we did our thing. And the next day I looked up to add her on social media, and sure enough, she has a blue check mark and and more followers than, well, actually not more followers than Lindy. This is not a competition. The point is that I felt firsthand this kind of dynamic between two people when the level of fame is different. And in this context, in my non-Lindy life, she is the more famous one. And I could tell that what would have been a friendship is just much less likely to happen. And it got me thinking about how you might be intimidated by me. A lot of times when I leave a reply on a comment that someone wrote on my videos and I say something nice back, I get the response that they'll say, "I didn't think you actually cared," or "I didn't think you'd actually read this," those kinds of things. I know this is difficult to hear. But little bunny, I love you. This is not fiction. I'm not playing a role. I have a fake name, but in some ways it's more real than my actual name, don't you think? As far as I'm concerned, there is just you and there's just me. In my mind, none of this is a broadcast. In my mind, there's not X number of followers. Who knows how much it'll grow to? It's always, to me, just you and just me. And of course, there are many little bunnies. But when I talk into this microphone, I'm addressing just you. I'm thinking of just you. It's only you, and it's only me. And little bunny, Daddy loves you. I don't want you and me to be this kind of unfortunate relationship where one person feels that they are on a different plane as the other in terms of fame. If you want to obey your daddy and do all the spicy fun stuff that I do in some of my locked audios, well then that's wonderful too. You can always treat me with respect and admiration. But I want you to always be yourself. I don't want you to feel like you're auditioning for me. I don't want you to feel like you're wasting my time. I get that comment a lot, at least in emails especially, is when I get this brilliantly vulnerable and fun and just a wonderful heartfelt letter at the end. And it always ends with "sorry to waste your time." And I don't want that with you and me, little bunny. I want the first half of that conversation with the celebrity at dinner, when he wasn't a celebrity, when we were just two warm human beings making a connection. And the plot twist is that I might actually end up becoming more famous than he will. But I really don't want that. What I really want is an honest, wonderful, warm, loving connection with you, little bunny. So you're not ever wasting my time. Sometimes I am hesitant to respond to DMs just because I would rather reply in some kind of a podcast format. But if you write me a note, I've even got some drawings that, oh my God, there is nothing that feels better to a daddy than his little bunny drawing him something. Anything that you express to me from a warm, loving place, it will be received safely in my heart. So if you want to send me an email, you can email Lindy at lindysgarden.com or daddy at lindysgarden.com, whichever you prefer. And with that, I'll do the announcements and then I'll read you the poem that I wrote for you today. First up, we are having so much fun on the Lindy's Garden Discord. It's 18 and up, but it is also safe for work. It's part of your Patreon subscription, and the locked audio this week was a response to some rebelliousness that was going on in the garden. And so the locked audio is a Dom audio where I reassert my dominance over you, little bunny, because it's been too long. So if you have ever wanted to be choked by me, check out the post from June 28th, 2022. It's patreon.com/Lindy's Garden. Speaking of spicy content, among the many things that I am also a fiction writer. I love short stories, and that's why I have had such a good time writing my erotic thriller, A Year of Love and Ligature. I highly suggest, if you're into erotica, to go check it out. There's 4 episodes now. They're on YouTube, which I understand is not the best place for audio, but that just happens to be the most convenient place for it right now. Another bonus of YouTube is that we can do a premiere. So on the 4th of July, the next episode will launch. It's going to be at noon GMT-5. That is the time zone for New York City. There will be a chat room. I will be there. It's a ton of fun. And I think that's all the announcements. So why don't you take a big breath with me and I'll slow us back down. And I'll read you the poem that I wrote just for you today. First there was one little bunny, then 2, then 4, then soon a line of little bunnies running out the door. Some bunnies started to fidget, nervously worrying out loud. How can my daddy still love me if I'm just one in this little bunny crowd? These little bunnies would say, I'm so sorry, Daddy, for hogging your attention. How about I disappear into an invisible dimension? I promise, little bunny, you're really no burden, and I can prove it to you if you're really not certain. So you think there's a crowd, but only one of me. But if there's a million of you, aren't there a million of me? It all cancels out, little bunny. It's just you and me talking. I'm just whispering in your ear, not radio broadcasting. I love you, little bunny. Your heart, I'll protect it. You've found your daddy. It's time to accept it. Have a wonderful week, little bunny. Take care of yourself. Don't put yourself in danger. Make good choices. Drink lots of water. Get lots of sleep. Put your phone away out of reach. And remember, above all else, that you are loved, little bunny. And not just by anyone. You are loved by me. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. I'll see you lots of places. I'll see you around. I'm everywhere. Okay, love you. Bye.